number one in any kitchen, restaurant or place where food is handled is the microorganisms that cause food poisoning. Their sole aim in life is to grow and multiply, and their sole method of doing so is by spreading from one place to another. We call it cross-contamination. In this part of the program, we'll look at the most common areas in which cross-contamination can occur, using a restaurant kitchen as a case study. We'll focus primarily on what to avoid. The basic principles demonstrated here apply equally to all food handling situations. Consider a basic kitchen. There's a person handling food, any physical objects that come into contact with food, like surfaces and any equipment used. There's the different types of food itself. And finally, the environment. These can all play a role in spreading foodborne illness. Let's take each of these in turn. Contamination passes from food handler to food by unconsciously touching your body and then touching food. By untied hair dropping into food. By continuing to use gloves that have been soiled. By coughing and sneezing and neglecting to wash your hands. When sick with flu, cold or diarrhea, bacteria are shed at a tremendous rate. Bacteria passed through tissues, hankies or toilet paper can make hands a lethal weapon. Dirt and food particles can build up under long fingernails and in jewellery and fall into food. Wristwatches, nail polish and jewellery other than a plain wedding band should never be worn when working with food. Climbing over food in storage areas or standing on shelves also spreads bacteria from food handler to food, as does neglecting to wash hands after a cigarette. Contamination from food handler to surfaces occurs when personal effects are left lying around, or by sitting and leaning on preparation benches. Tasting food with a traditional tasting spoon or wiping spilt dressings off the edge of a plate is no better than spitting straight into the food. Contamination from surface or equipment to food occurs by using chopping boards and utensils and not cleaning between uses. Mixing raw food and cooked food is particularly dangerous. Leaving uncovered bowls of food on top of one another can also spread bacteria, as can food placed directly on areas not designed for it. Tea towels can transfer bacteria, as can cracks in crockery. Contamination occurs from food to surface by using unsanitized cleaning cloths, worn-out brooms, old dish sponges, and mops that retain dirty food particles and moisture. The next time the mop is used, it simply spreads the bacteria evenly over the floor. Contamination from food to surface can happen when food crumbs or liquid get caught up or left in equipment. When crumbs or splashes fall into pots stored up the wrong way, bacteria multiply in the splashes and survive until food is added to the pot. Dragging unwashed potatoes can also spread bacteria through microbiological spores. Contamination from food to food occurs through drips or splashes, where raw food is stored above cooked food. By raw food touching cooked food. By bacterial spores from inadequately prepared vegetables used in a stew. By dirty vegetables used in a cold meat display. Remember, you should always use disposable gloves when dealing with ready-to-eat foods, or you risk further contamination. Contamination from environment to food or surface occurs by dust through dirty windows or ventilation ducts, and by insects and vermin wandering over food when it's sitting on preparation benches. Contamination can also occur from cleaning products coming into direct contact with food. Above all, remember that the sole aim of bacteria is to spread by growing and multiplying, so any opportunity for cross-contamination must be avoided. Up next, we'll look at some basic ways to stop the spread. The main enemy in any environment is the microorganisms that cause food poisoning. Cross-contamination is the way in which foodborne illness can spread. In a typical kitchen, consider the potential risks of cross-contamination as the food, the person or food handler, surfaces and equipment, and the environment. This includes contamination from food to food. Cleaning products or chemicals not designed to be eaten are other risks to food safety.